Hey guys, what is going on? So I just achieved the level of leanness that I was kind of hoping to get by the end of this cut, which is roughly 12% body fat. That's my own estimate. Maybe some people think it's higher, lower, or whatever. But I, for the first time in the last 2 years, am at this level of leanness. And so I feel like it's a good example to kind of show apples to apples what I've achieved over the past couple years. And as somebody who's been training for quite a while, I hope this can kind of be representative of what you can do if you are constantly trying to, get better. And I feel like I have a lot of improvements that I've made only in the last several months when I've been cutting, which are going to make my gains even better over the next couple years. So this is by no means like the best results you can get over a 2-year period. It's just what I achieved. And I feel like I'm going to blow these out of the water in the future. But I just wanted to kind of show this video for people who think that like after 5 years of lifting or whatever, you can only gain like 1 pound of muscle per year. So hopefully this can be encouraging for some people, or just more of a realistic example for other people who already don't have that self-limiting belief. So for me, I would say I'm roughly 12% body fat right now, and I was roughly 12% 2 years ago. And so 2 years ago, I was about 217, 218, and now I'm 230. And so that's, 12, 13 pounds lean. And obviously there's, human error. I might have been a little bit leaner back then, whatever, but I feel like that's a lot of wiggle room, and that's a lot of weight gained over that, 2-year period. So that's roughly like 6 pounds gain per year lean, which I would say is pretty darn good. And I feel like that's not what people try and tell you is achievable. And I was not even like super dialed in with like my training and nutrition for that whole time period. In fact, I would say I've only really been dialed in with my nutrition over the last like 5 months, which I've been cutting that entire time. So I really feel like I have a lot of extra gains to be made just by keeping my nutrition really high quality. And then my training has been really solid over the past year. But if it was more solid for a longer period of time, I feel like when you pair that with nutrition and recovery and stuff like that, things can go really well. So I wanted to throw up these pictures. These are different lighting, different angles, so I apologize. One of them I look leaner, and then one of them I'm like more tan and stuff like that. But hopefully the differences are apparent enough where that stuff doesn't really matter, because I understand lighting and angles and cameras and all that stuff is like 90% of these things anyway. And so I'm not trying to trick anybody. Again, there's a solid like 12 pounds of weight gains here, and I feel like this, before and after that I'm about to show is kind of the areas that I've seen the most improvement. So for me, it's been arms, back, and legs. And I don't take pictures of my legs, so this is the next best thing in terms of showing progress. So first picture, again, this is June 2021. The lighting in this gym is better, I would say, but I was less tan. And so you can see like the striations in my like left trap there. So yeah, I would say roughly like 12% here. And yeah, I mean, this is not super impressive. My arms are not a strong point, and my back is not a strong point, even now, but especially in this picture. So that's an area that I look to improve upon over the last couple years. And so this is where I'm currently at. And I understand this is a different angle and stuff like that, but, and I'm more tan. But I would say it's pretty apparent, like the size that I put on my back. And then I feel like this, the reason I chose this is because I feel like you can see in this angle specifically is because you can see my triceps more, which has really been the area. This is like the only pose where I feel like you can really see my triceps. And that's been the biggest area of growth for me. So triceps is the only muscle group I feel like I have. I feel like my shoulders in general are like one of my stronger body parts and stuff like that. And I have a few that just grow pretty easily. My arms have been the muscle group that I have been obsessively trying to grow, and they do grow, but they don't grow at the speed and with the same effort as like other muscle groups. And so I really have had to dial in my tricep training. And so I'm really proud of, even though, my arms are not like as big as they could be, the progress that I've made is really what I care about. And so I've allocated a ton of volume, a ton of time and energy into my triceps. And so to see them grow, and to see me put on, I think I put on like an inch to my arms and not that long, is something that I'm really, really happy about. And I feel like in terms of like, people talk about genetics all the time. I feel like people are very limited by their beliefs in terms of what they can achieve and what their genetics are and stuff like that. That being said, I do feel like given all my other body parts and the rate in which they grow and the effort that I give them, my triceps just don't seem to respond the same way. And so that's the only muscle group I'm willing to say like, oh, my genetics aren't that good for my triceps. However, it's the muscle group, therefore, that I am the most motivated to train. So as opposed to letting that be a crutch and a reason to not train my triceps, it actually is a reason for me to destroy my triceps and grow them at all costs. And so I actually think it's a blessing in disguise. And so if you look at your genetics and you look at your ability to gain muscle and people talking about you can only achieve this and your genetics are holding you back, I feel like when you take it as a challenge and you can be really, really proud of what you've achieved, and you could say, oh, you know, my genetics are better than yours, or this guy's genetics are better than mine. But if you can do more with worse genetics, like that makes it that much more rewarding. And so for me to have average triceps is so rewarding to me. And if I were to one day have massive triceps, that would be the most important body part for me. Like, because it was so difficult to achieve. And so I feel like the self-limiting beliefs that we have and the way that we view genetics, the way we view the natty limit and everything like that, I feel like when we flip that and have a positive perspective on it, it makes it so much more rewarding and enjoyable and motivating for me. At least that's how I see it. So anyway, I feel like this is pretty representative of like the gains that I've made. I have made progress in other areas, but I feel like this picture is more so, again, legs. I don't even take pictures of my legs, and they have definitely improved. But yeah, I feel like that's a pretty good representation. Now, in terms of like the numbers, you know, so I've been lifting, I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, I've been lifting. First time I picked up a weight, I was 12 years old and I'm currently 27. And so that is like 15 years. I have not been lifting for 15 years. I don't think that's an accurate statement because like when I was in college, I barely lifted. And, you know, there were periods where I was like not consistent and stuff like that. But I would say there's like a 2 to 3 year period in high school where I lifted a lot. And then I've been lifting pretty consistently since I was like 22. So I'm 27 now. So that's roughly, I don't know, 7 to 8 years. I would say I've been training consistently for like 7, 8 years. I feel like that's a pretty accurate representation. And a lot of people think, you know, after 5 years, you know, your gains just fall off the cliff. And I've seen enough times where that's just not really true, especially if you dial in things like your training and your nutrition, which is something that I really have done over the past, you know, X amount of months. And so for me, I really think I can improve that rate of progress over the next couple years, mainly with my nutrition. I feel like that's the area that I've lagged the most. And that's the area that I have the most in terms of like my bulks. That's when my nutrition has been the worst. And so now that I feel like I'm going to carry this positive, good nutrition into my bulk, I feel like that's really what's going to allow me to make some really good gains. So that's like my training age. In terms of my numbers, so I've not been strength training for like the past year. So I've been working with a coach and we've been pretty much doing only bodybuilding. So I'm not like hitting bench PRs or anything like that. I'm hitting a ton of PRs just like on accessory lifts, right? So I'm doing bodybuilding stuff. But in the first year of this 2-year transformation, I took my bench from 375 to 415. So 40-pound increase. I did that in 10 months. And then my overhead press went from 245 to 275 in that same 10 months. And then squats and deadlifts, I don't really like max out on or anything like that. But my squats probably improved more than any other lift, but I don't have like specific 1-rep maxes or anything like that to go off of with that. Now, if I were to like peak my bench and peak my overhead press, I would imagine I probably could have added maybe like 30 pounds to my bench this past year, and then probably like 20 pounds to my overhead press. But maybe that's wishful thinking, so we can just kind of go with like, you know, the 415 bench, I guess. I feel like once you cross into the 400-pound bench area, maybe that considers you like, okay, now I'm advanced. So maybe if that's like the threshold of where you say, okay, now I'm an advanced lifter, it's like, okay, what rate of progress do you expect to achieve after that? And for me, I went from 218 to 230, you know, 12 pounds, roughly 6 pounds a year. And I feel like I can beat that the next couple of years with better nutrition, better training, everything like that. And so we'll see. I hope you guys join along for the journey and see if I can make that happen. But I feel like I'm going to blow those numbers out of the water in terms of like 415 bench and stuff like that. I feel like I'm going to get much higher than that by the end of this next 2 years. But for the time being, I'm just going to be doing like bodybuilding work. And so let's keep growing the triceps and the chest and everything like that. And then those bench numbers will just kind of take care of themselves. It's kind of the mentality that I've had over the last year. So hopefully that will be a prosperous path. And hopefully this video could either encourage people who maybe had more of a negative view in terms of their genetics, or how, what they can achieve after a certain amount of time lifting. And we're all in this together, guys. Like, we're all, and being natural, I feel like a lot of people see these guys on gear on Instagram and they just get discouraged. And there's a constantly growing, ever evolving natural community that's growing, and it's great to be a part of it. And I feel like when we're all kind of going through the same struggles and trying to do this thing in a much slower path, one being slower than going the unnatty route, and then two, as we get more advanced, it becomes more slow. I feel like it builds this bond with us of like, we're all struggling together. So I really like that. I really like the natural community. My coach, Bald Omni Man, he is like one of the main guys in terms of like making videos, and they all kind of communicate in terms of like these influential natural bodybuilders. So I really like to see that. And let's continue to grow this community, encourage each other, and bring each other up, right? Like, raise our standards on what we can achieve. It used to be like, whatever, a 405 bench was like much harder to achieve naturally, and now it's much more regular. And so let's like bring that bar up, and let's all start like benching 500 pounds. And I think it'll be fun, and I'm looking forward to the next couple years and getting closer to those kind of numbers and improving my lifts and my physique and everything like that. And excited to see what some of you guys can do as well. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'll keep you updated, and I'll talk to you soon.